a big part of my journey is I've always been scared of what other people think of me. And I've let that hold me back, but I've also let my pursuit of perfection and making sure everything's perfect and like, I can't start unless it's absolutely perfect. And that causes me to not start anything ever.
Hey, my Feel Good friend, and welcome to another episode of the Feel Good Social podcast. I am so excited to share today's guest with you. Katie is just one of those people who you want to hug. You will want to hug her through your earbuds, I promise. She is just so warm and vulnerable and real. And today we are chatting all about confidence and how you can show up confidently online as a human and for your brand. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Have you been wanting to create a new website? My friend, I have just the website template shop for you. I recently used one of the templates from the gals at Go Live HQ to create my new author website, and it could not be more awesome. Not only was the template super easy to use, I swear it was laid out perfectly already, so I customized it with my own photos and copy in like 2 hours. But also it ended up looking so freaking beautiful in a way that I know I would not have been able to achieve if I'd started from scratch. Go Live HQ has tons of beautiful Squarespace templates so you can easily create and launch your dream website in just a few hours and not have to keep tweaking things forever until it's 6 months later and your website still isn't live. That may or may not have happened to Feel Good Social's website. So believe me, I feel you on that. And the cherry on top, the Go Live gals created a coupon code for you, my Feel Good listener. Just head to feelgoodsocial.com/go live and use the coupon code feelgoodsocial to receive 10% off your template. Again, head to feelgoodsocial.com/go live and use the code feelgoodsocial for 10% off. Pretty cool, huh? I cannot wait to see which template best fits your brand. I went with a Jada Ellis template myself for KinseyAlyssa.com, but it was seriously a really tough choice. So when you do, head to feelgoodsocial.com/go live and snag your new template. Make sure you send me the link to your new website because I definitely want to see it. All right, let's dive back into this episode, my friend. Hi, Katie. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have you on the Feel Good Social podcast, lady.
Hi, Kinsey. I'm so happy to be on here. I feel like we've been friends for years at this point. So
oh my gosh,
we've only known each other a couple months.
I love that. I feel that so hard about so many of my podcast guests. Like a lot of people that I bring onto the show, honestly, I've never really had conversations before with them, and it just feels like making friends,
Yeah,
and we've been through a lot with all of our internet troubles in the past and going on your show, sharing my journey with confidence. I can't wait to chat with you and hear your story. So, lady, let's dive into it. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do. And don't forget to mention the podcast too, because I love your podcast.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm Katie Hawks. And I am a marketer for an e-commerce company by day and a podcast host for the Contagious Confidence podcast at night. So a little busy. Also do some freelance social media management on the side as well. I like staying busy. So that pretty much sums me up. But I know that you also asked, who do you serve? And I was trying to think of like how I would sum that up. And for the podcast, I would say that I serve ambitious women who want to be confident on and offline.
Yeah. Ooh, I love that, lady. And it's such an important question too, right? It's so funny that you brought that up because I've been thinking about changing my intro up a little bit. Cause usually I'm like, tell us who you are, what you do, who you serve. And I've run into several guests that are like, Oh, that was a lot of questions all in one question. But I love it, because I think that that's so important. Like, who are you? What do you do? And then like, who are you speaking to? Who do you help? Like, that's so, I think, important. On your podcast, when we were interviewing for your show and whatnot, you asked me about like the difference between posting on my personal account versus my business account. And I think that posting on my business account is just so much easier because I'm so clear on those questions for my business. You know what I mean? So I love that you serve ambitious women who are confident online and offline. Tell us a little bit about your journey with getting started with the podcast and all that stuff, because that's a journey that I have taken as well, my friend. And I know how difficult it can be and how crazy it can be to figure all that stuff out. So why did you decide to start your podcast and what did that look like?
Yeah. So before I can really share how the podcast came to be, I think I do need to give a little bit of a reason why confidence. So, and that will share my story a little bit, but I think it was about 2017. I was working at a corporate company, hating my life, crying on the way to work every day because I just hated my job so much. But I was just really, really struggling. I didn't really know where I wanted to go with my life or what I wanted to do, but I knew where I was at that time was not it. So I hired a life coach, and I did not know how I was going to pay for it because even though I had a job, I wasn't getting paid that much either. So I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to pay for a life coach and where I'm going to come up with this money, but it's important to me and I'm going to make it work. Mm-hmm. So I did the life coach thing for about 4 months. And through that journey, it absolutely changed my life. I went from working a corporate job, having to commute like 45 minutes every day, to getting a work from home job. Mm-hmm. And I thought, like, when I went into it, I was like, I want to figure out how to start my own business. And I realized I don't really want to start my own business right now, but I do want to have a work from home job. And that's what I kind of manifested, and that's what I got. And so through all of that work, not to go into too much detail, but I realized that one thing that I really struggled with at that point in my life was confidence. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, it was so hard and so uncomfortable to go through my whole life and kind of figure out like, okay, what do I need to do next? And that was like, it was really a journey in confidence and trying to figure out who I was, because I didn't really know who I was. And I was always like the little shy girl in the corner that never like really wanted to get up in front of people, and that everyone thought was nice and sweet, but that's all they would say. And so I really like started stepping into my own, and I just kind of was sharing that online a lot. And a girl that I used to work with when I was in college, we worked in the same office, reached out to me, and she was like, hey, you work from home. I want to work from home. How do I do that? Like, you just seem like you're really loving life right now, and I would love to know how you got there. So I was like, okay. So I met her for coffee and we had a good time. We were talking through some stuff, and that started our friendship back up, because we used to work together in college, but we kind of like knew of each other. We didn't know each other that well, but we were friends. And we started freelance social media work together, and we really enjoyed working with each other. And when the pandemic happened, we started talking on the phone like for hours a day. And her name was Ashley, or is Ashley. She's still my friend. But she asked me, she was like, would you ever want to start a podcast with me? Like, I feel like we're having really good conversations, and like I'm learning a lot from our conversations. Would you want to share that with other people? And I was like, you know what? That sounds like a good idea. I had always like loved podcasts, but I never knew like if I were to start one, like what would I do? Mm-hmm. And so thankfully, Ashley talked to me about it. We started before we were ready, and we started our podcast last November, and it's just gained momentum. And I have to say, if it were not for Ashley, I would have never started a podcast. Actually, Contagious Confidence was my idea, but it was in like a different manifestation. Like I was thinking like a social media campaign or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I never did anything about it. And so when it came to naming the podcast, Ashley suggested that we use that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I finally get to use my idea that I had a couple of years ago. And I think a big part of my journey is I've always been scared of what other people think of me. And I've let that hold me back, but I've also let my pursuit of perfection and making sure everything's perfect. And like, I can't start unless it's absolutely perfect. And that causes me to not start anything ever. So I'm really thankful that Ashley like kind of helped me start before I was ready. And we recorded for like a little over 8-9 months, and some things in Ashley's life made her realize that she didn't want to do the podcast anymore. It didn't feel right for her anymore. And I completely understood that. And I'm grateful to her for the time that she spent with me on the podcast. But she decided to step away recently, and I was ready to take it on. And I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. I'm ready. Let's go. So that's kind of like how the podcast came to be. Like long story short, but really long.
Oh my God. I do that all the time. Like, so long story short, after I've spent like 15 minutes telling a story, not that you just did that. I loved hearing that. I love hearing the origin story and whatnot. And tell me how you feel about this. Well, firstly, I just love that, you said you had this idea for a while and you weren't sure if you were ready to take the leap, and Ashley helped to push you there and all that stuff. I mean, I think that that's why I love having like a community of people as entrepreneur. That's why like I have hired a business coach and a mindset coach and have like tons of biz buddies. And I love all the people in my audience and all those things. Like, it's helpful to have like that person beside you as you're taking these scary leaps, I think, in life, but also, what came up for me, one of my clients, Tanya, this is like a journey that she's taken with Instagram lives and whatnot. She's actually a confidence and courage coach. And we were like chatting about her content strategy and whatnot. That's what I help her with, marketing strategy and whatnot. And it took her a while to get here, but she finally was like at the point where I was like, Tanya, I think you need to start doing some Instagram lives, lady. And she was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm like ready. I'm a little bit nervous about it. And I was like, girl, you are a confidence coach. This is going to be a test of confidence for you to take this leap. You're going to start and it's going to be scary and you aren't going to probably be very good, like as good as you would like to be in the beginning, but I was like, being a confidence coach, that it just is taking messy action and taking baby steps and building up that confidence allows you to gain that inner confidence that you ultimately want and whatnot. And so she started doing Instagram lives and she's built up her confidence. And I'm like, this is the perfect journey for you to share with your clients now, So I guess I'm asking, did you feel that way about the podcast a little bit? Do you feel like doing a podcast about confidence has helped you to build confidence?
Yes, maybe.
Possibly.
Yes. It's definitely like allowed me to gain a lot of confidence in areas that I wasn't really confident in. Like, I didn't feel like I was a good interviewer. And when we started bringing on people to interview, like I really struggled with it. And that's why I like kind of leaned on Ashley more, because she was really good at it. And then the more I started like listening to our episodes, because I like to listen to them back. Some people don't like to hear themselves talk, but and it's not that I love hearing myself talk, but I'm really trying to figure out like, okay, how can I improve? How can I be more confident at this? And I feel like I'm finally starting to get the hang of it. I hosted a panel that gave me like so much anxiety, but at the same time, it was great. It was wonderful. Like leading up to it, I had so much anxiety and I was like, should I be doing this? Am I the right person to be doing this? And it went so well. And so many people's lives were impacted by it. And I was like, this is why I do it. Even though it was like a lot of like really tough mental days leading up to it, like I'm glad I did it. And now I feel I'm going to go into my next speaking event or panel hosting feeling more confident because I've already done it before. And sometimes you just have to start. That's how confidence comes. And I think that a lot of people would agree with that, because one thing I've been asking some of my guests, and I asked some of the women on the panel, it's like, do you think confidence is required, or do you think it happens as you put yourself out there more, get out of your comfort zone, kind of force yourself to do things that you're not quite ready for. And a lot of people are just like, it comes as you like do more stuff. It's not like you don't have to be super confident to start anything. Like you just have to start.
So true. And thank you so much for being like open and honest about that. And also like, congrats on the panel thing. I totally feel that. I always like joke with my mom, like I worry myself crazy leading up to something. And it's never as bad as I think it's going to be. Even if it's not like the perfect way that I want it to end up, it's still not as bad as I was like making myself sick about beforehand. So that's something I've been working on personally. Do you have any like tips for dealing with that stuff yet? Or is it just something we're figuring out?
Yeah. Well, so I'm kind of figuring it out as I go, but when you said that what your mom told you, that reminded me something of my grandmother, who she passed away in 2012, but she was one of my best friends. And I have her name tattooed on my arm in her handwriting. She told me that 99.9% of the things that I worry about actually never happen. So it was like that 0.01% that do, you can't do anything about. So it's
you
like,
can't control anyway. Wait, what's your grandma's name?
Her name was Eulayla.
Eulayla. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. That is such a pretty name. I don't think I've ever heard that before, actually.
A lot of people haven't. And a lot of people don't know how to say it. When they see it on my arm, they're like, Eulala? No, that's not
and they probably don't even like realize it's a name. Granny Eulayla. Okay, I love that so much.
Yeah, but she's been a huge like person in my life that really pushed me to be confident. 'Cause she's like 4'5" and really spunky, and no one really expected her to be that way. But she was just like, oh, she was the best. I could just talk on and on about her, but she really was someone in my life that modeled confidence. And like, she just was very happy with who she was, knew exactly who she was, didn't care if you were offended by something that she said. She was going to let you know what she thought. And a lot of times it was really like profound stuff. And I think about her all the time and try to channel her a lot too.
Yeah. Oh, that just makes me so happy because I know what you mean. Like it's so powerful to have powerful women in your life, and it doesn't even necessarily like you're so lucky to have a grandmother like that. But there are so many powerful women in the world that we can look up to from afar, as well. And it doesn't have to be from afar for us, it can still be close to our heart. Do you feel like that gives you, I don't know, the confidence or like the motivation to show up on your podcast and possibly be that for other women as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm very grateful that I've had a lot of powerful women in my life and that I continue to. I never thought of myself as someone that would be that for other people, but in my pursuit to model after powerful women, like I'm also laying out the path for people to come after me too. So it's like, I think it's true of anything that you start out to do. Like if your goal is to like inspire other women, that's only going to get you so far. But if you just start living your life, you're going to overflow and start inspiring women. Because I think some people get so focused on what they want to do that they kind of like are blinded by the whole journey. And they're just like, oh, I want to inspire women. I want to have a YouTube channel of 1 million subscribers, but they're not allowing themselves to like really take that journey and allow themselves to like become a woman that would have 1 million subscribers, if you know if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. They're so focused on like the goal and not the process and not the journey, like I don't know if it's like an American culture thing or whatnot, but like we want to get places fast.
Yeah,
we're very
instant gratification,
urgency driven culture. And I've always been one to like just slow down, and I'm totally driven by like urgency and wanting to be places fast for sure. Like, I mean, as a social media manager, my mind is always 3 months, 2 years ahead into the future. But still, yeah, I think like slowing down and just trusting the process and trusting the journey. That's something that I do often. I think to like deal with anxiety is like telling myself this sucks right now, but like feel into it, Kins, sit with it. Like next week, next month, next year, you're going to be looking back at this moment and being like, what a great like learning opportunity that was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And really enjoying the process. Like, what is going to get you to that 1 million subscribers or that like 20,000 followers on Instagram, which those are all vanity metrics. Like, but that's what a lot of people are wanting. And I think at one time I was probably like, oh, I want to have this many followers. I want to do this and this and this. And I wasn't really focused on becoming that, I was just focused on getting it, if that makes sense. And I think right now I'm really focused on becoming and really trying to figure out where I'm going next in life. And one thing that's been coming up for me is choicefulness and like living a life of choice and choosing what I want for myself. And my pursuit is not to be powerful or to be like extremely confident. It's more about how I feel. And I want to choose things that are going to make me feel like that powerful woman in the future. And I just want to allow myself to really enjoy the process, like you're saying, and really take everything I can and learn from it to get to that next step. But at the same time, there's no end result. Like I'm always going to be like changing and growing, and like growth is huge for me. I could like get on a soapbox and talk about personal growth, but that's something that's really been coming up for me lately, and just kind of accepting where I'm at right now and accepting that there's going to be stresses and there's going to be hard times and frustrating times, but I'm going to get through it and I'm going to be better because of it.
Oh my gosh, so much. Like, it is so hard to accept when you're in the middle of shit that like the shit is going to make you a better person, but you got to wade through it first, right? Like it's but it's so true. Like literally the best people that I know, and like I know that like all the things that have made me into a person that I feel content with and like comfortable with, it's been going through hardships, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's kind of hard. It is, but like, it's on the other side of things, it's worth it. And I'm one of those people too, I've had things happen in my life that I would never say I'm glad they happened because like they were terrible and whatnot, And so I don't know if I really like the phrase, like, there's always good that comes from the bad. I think there is in a way. I've been kind of trying to play around with how I want to say that, like how I want to say that phrase in a way. You know what I mean? I think there's always good that comes after the bad. There's growth that comes from the bad that can lead to goodness or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really like trusting that like wherever you're at, whatever's going on, that there's going to be a new day ahead. There's going to be something new. Like, because I think it metaphors a lot. And so I think of like a flower. And like, there's going to be storms, like we're going to be growing and there's going to be a storm that comes on and just like wipes us out, but we can grow again. We can get back and grow stronger and taller and really like beautifully and really have a beautiful life. But I mean, there's going to be storms that come, there's going to be weeds that will get in our little area, but at the same time is knowing that we're going to be stronger and better because of it.
Yeah, lady. Oh, I have one for you. Wildfires. Like wildfires, I mean, they're very destructive and they're very bad when, it's near residential areas and whatnot and all that stuff. But, wildfires like serve a purpose and really like they need to like clear out the forest. Like it's insane to drive through a wildfire a year after it happened. Right. And it's like all of this charred blackness and whatnot, but there's also like so much green. It's insane. Have you ever seen one?
I haven't. We don't have any wildfires on the East Coast where I'm
from. You
got
a lot of wetness. You're safe over there.
No, it's hot and humid over here.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, lady. Okay. So I have a question for you. When I was on your podcast, you asked me what confidence meant to me. And I'd love to know like what it means to you.
Oh,
I know it's a tough one. I think I told you that. It's a tough one.
Yeah. Well, how much time do you have?
Right.
Oh, I'm going to sit with that for just a second, just because there's so many things I want to say and I just want to be intentional about what I say because I mean, I have the Contagious Confidence podcast. So you think like, oh, someone that has a podcast named Contagious Confidence would be confident, would have an answer ready to go. But it's really so many things. It's literally everything. Like everything in my life, I can tie to confidence. And confidence can be like how you feel about yourself. And I think that's a big thing for me is how I feel about myself. Because I've definitely gone through a lot of seasons in my life where I was not confident at all. If you saw me like 10 years ago, you'd be like, this is the same person? Like, I wasn't confident in myself at all. I didn't really have anything that I was really confident about anyway, like physically or like career wise, or like, I just wasn't proud of myself. And once I started talking to my life coach and like really working on my confidence, I realized how much I had to be proud of. And like, I always would look at things and like, oh, well, when my acne clears up, I'm going to be confident. Or when I lose some weight, I'm going to be confident. But it's really being confident in who you are right now, like accepting yourself for who you are. I think that is what confidence is accepting yourself for exactly who you are and allowing yourself to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. I also think that confidence is living an inspired life. And I think like one thing that held me back in starting the podcast and really just even sharing my life online is I was afraid I was going to be drained for some reason. Like I was just afraid like, oh, if I start opening up and being vulnerable and sharing, like I'm just going to be drained. I'm just going to be like a shriveled up prude. Like I'm not going to be anything. But I realized that I need to live an inspired life and be so filled up and so like confident in myself and confident in where I'm going that I'm overflowing. I'm like a cup that's overflowing and other people can bring their cups and get what they need. So I think that's also confidence. Like I told you, there are a lot of things that I wanted to say about this. So.
No, I love it so much. Like, I mean, and it makes sense, right? There's not a simple answer. It's a simple question and there's not a simple answer. And I think that that's part of the fun of why you love to ask that and why I asked you, right? It's because there's so many different things you can say. To each person, confidence means multiple different things, right? And I love what you shared. And I think that I shared something similar on your podcast when you asked me what confidence was. Like what I've truly found confidence to be is just that inner peace, inner contentedness in a way. And just exactly what you said, realizing like whoever the heck you are, however the heck you are, whenever the heck you are, it's okay. And like being okay with whatever the heck you move forward doing, however it ends up, it's going to be okay. And we can figure it out. And that's all right, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I love that.
Oh my gosh. I love the fact too that you get to chat with so many amazing women about this topic. Like that's kind of how I feel with the Feel Good Social podcast. Like I wanted to start a podcast for so many different reasons, but a big portion of that reasoning was because I wanted to talk to other people. And like hear their answers and like gain their knowledge and all that stuff. Do you feel like you're growing a community behind your podcast and connecting with all these women and all that stuff?
Yeah, I do. And I actually have had a man on my podcast as well, one of my friends.
Yay.
Talk about allyship. Shout out to my podcast. You should go listen to it.
What episode number is it? Do you have it off the top of your head or?
No, I don't.
Girl, I could not either.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll go find it.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we have so much to learn from other people. And when Ashley and I initially started the podcast, it was just going to be the two of us talking. And we did a couple interviews in March of this year for Women's History Month because we wanted to bring on some more people. And then we started getting people reaching out to us like, hey, I have a client that would be great for your podcast. Here's what they can talk about. And then more and more people have been reaching out to me and being like, I love what your podcast stands for. Can I be on your podcast? And it's just kind of grown from there. And I feel like there's so many things that we can learn from other people. And I want to have guests on my podcast that have different backgrounds, that have different stories, because there's so much we can learn from each other's journeys and stories. And I think that's also like another reason why I'm so grateful for the podcast, is because I didn't want like any woman to feel the way that I felt about myself. Like I want to kind of like save them from all of the shit and be like, you are worthy, you are confident, you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And here's all these women talking about their journeys with this too. And you're not alone in feeling and thinking the way that you do. And so I think a lot of things that we talk about are so relatable for so many people. And that's how the community has started to grow, and it continues to grow. And I'm just getting started. So I mean, I'm excited for the potential of the podcast, and I love the feedback that I've been getting, but I mean, it is a lot for one person to handle. So I'm just trying to enjoy the ride. So
I feel you with that, lady. I was doing it all by myself for a year. I think we chatted about that before, like staying up till 2 a.m. editing episodes and all those things and whatnot. But I love what you're doing, and I think it's so amazing. I would love to chat a little bit about social media, because I do know that that's been a big part of your journey. And I was giggling on this side of the mic when you were talking about feeling like sharing and being vulnerable on social media. You felt like you might shrivel up like a prune. I relate to that. I for sure do. Do you know what your brand vibe is on Instagram? I have a new fun quiz that's just for you, my friend. I, of all people, know how hard it is to figure out how the heck you're supposed to translate your brand to the gram. And with this quick 7-question quiz, we will help you hone in on your brand's personality, voice, and visuals so that you can show up consistently and create content that looks beautiful and feels on brand for you. This quiz is so awesome. It's been a long time coming, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Plus, the results will help you show up in the best way for you. If you'd like to check out our new brand vibe quiz, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Pretty easy. Head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz to find out what your brand's vibe is on social media and start showing up there for your brand. So could you tell us a little bit just about your journey with social media? I mean, I would love to chat about graphics and whatnot too, because I geek out about that, and you are awesome at them. So anyway, tell us about your journey and then let's talk about graphics.
Okay. So my journey with social media, personally, my relationship with social media is very strained. I'm really bad at scrolling and consuming, and I know it. Like, I'm aware of it. I know, like, I have a timer on my Instagram app to let me know how long I've been on there. It's like, hey, you've been on there 30 minutes. You might want to like shut it down. But at the same time, I'm like fully aware that I'm scrolling and consuming. And I think for social media, there's so many great things about it, but there's also a lot of like deep, dark shit in there too. There's like plenty of documentaries too on like how bad social media can be at times, but there's also a lot of good on there. And I get a lot of inspiration in consuming that stuff, but I've been a consumer for a long time, and I've also been a creator, but I haven't been creating for myself. I've been creating for other clients. I've done social media content for hairstylists and for like nonprofits, and I run the social media pages for the company that I work for right now. And then I also do social media for the podcast and for myself. So it's like, it's a little overwhelming at times. And sometimes I just got to scroll. I got to consume that stuff. And I go through periods where I'll like log out of my Instagram and not want to be on there. But at the same time, then I'll get on my client's account and I'm like looking through it, or get on the podcast account, and then I'm sucked in again. So it's like, oh my God. It's a never ending cycle. I'm like, oh, I'm doing really good. I haven't gotten on Instagram today, and it's 12 p.m. And then 12:01 p.m. comes around. I'm like, okay, let's scroll. But there's so many good things that can come out of social media. And I love the strategy behind it. That's actually part of my job, is being a strategist and really thinking like, how can I reach my ideal follower, customer, anything? Like how can I reach them? And I have to think about like the content that I'm putting out there. I have to think about the design of the graphic and all of that stuff. But I absolutely love social media, and I don't like, I love it and I hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm at with social media. And I think we talked about it when you're on my podcast too. It's just like, I have so much anxiety around it, and I'm not like afraid to like show my face on there occasionally, but I might show my face on there and then like 2 months later, I'll do it again. I'm not consistent, but I think that's also something with social media. Like, you have to be consistent if you want to grow your community. You've got to be consistent and show up. And I'm still trying to figure it out. I still have a strained relationship with Instagram, and at times I don't like Facebook anymore, but sometimes when I'm checking it for work, I'm like, oh, who's on here? What have they been up to? And then at the same time, comparison is also really big for me on social media personally. So that's also something that I've been struggling with and trying to put boundaries up around is, I realized I was doing something a couple weeks ago that was really affecting me mentally. And I was like, I would watch people's stories and like looking at all the great things that they're doing and all their perfect lives and all of this stuff. But I was like, well, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to like create all this. I don't have time to like go to the grocery store in the middle of the day and all this stuff. And I don't have time to go play tennis with my boyfriend at night. And I have a husband. I'm looking at someone.
Yeah. Where's my boyfriend to play tennis? And your husband's like sitting in the next room. Oh, I've been there, girl.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm just so sad. And I'm just sitting there like scrolling when I could be going on and doing all of those things and actually living my life, but watching other people do it. And I realized I was creating this like avatar of the perfect person and that can go play tennis with their significant other at night. But you know what, Kinsey? I don't want to play tennis. I don't know why I'm jealous of someone.
Oh my gosh, yes. That is such a great reframe though. You know what I mean? Oh girl, so many people struggle with that. Like, I mean, firstly, like social media, it's like created to be addictive, right? Mm-hmm. And like there's good qualities about like feed curation and there's bad things about feed curation and all that stuff. And so, you know, and there's good and bad of all things. Like we can't really beat ourselves up about that stuff. And then especially the comparison syndrome. I definitely struggle with that too. And I totally get what you mean about like creating these stories that in your head that it just snowballs and snowballs. And I've been practicing that too, where I'm like, I'll take a deep breath and take myself out of the situation and be like, hold on, Kins, like you're wanting to create this life that like you don't even really want, you know, you don't even really like this thing that you're jealous of and whatnot. And I found like just kind of saying that out loud too, I think is like to my boyfriend or my mom or my mindset coach or something that's helpful too. Cause like, you know, there's mindset tools that you can have in your mindset toolbox that you can use for yourself. And that's awesome. But some of them only really work if you have like someone to bounce your ideas back onto you, right? Or what there's like a technical term for that. And I'm not thinking of it right now.
Yeah, I can't think of it either.
Yeah, girl, but I totally feel you when it comes to that stuff. And thanks for sharing that. You know, I think that it's one of those things too. I don't think we're going to stop really sharing the highlight reel on Instagram. You know, like I do try to share like some of the harder moments or like, you know, more vulnerable moments or the messy side of things and whatnot. But like, do I really share the deep, dark, messy moments? Oh no. You know, like it's more like my laundry in the background and whatnot. And also, you know, and we can't really expect people to do that. Like there's things that we do need to keep private and whatnot. And so I think it's one of those things where like just remembering that it is the shiny real. Like one of my favorite like reflections is to be like looking at everyone else's shiny lives and then thinking about myself and what I actually do share on social media and being like, Kinsey pretty much share the shiny stuff too,
Yeah. I mean, especially Instagram, it is the highlight reel but it's also a place for like connection and like really like meeting people. Like we met on Instagram. So it's like, there's so much good on there. And it's like, for me, it's more of like, I need to just fix my relationship with Instagram. Cause I mean, at times it can really, really mess with you mentally, but at the same time, there's so much good that can come from it. And we can all say like, we don't want to get tied up in the vanity metrics, but like, you look and see how many followers I have. And I will compare myself. It's so easy to do, but it's just realizing that that's not what it's all about. It's really just living your life and putting what you want to out there. Yeah, there's going to be things that you want to say for yourself, and you're not seeing everything. For instance, when I did the panel, I like got on and was like, oh, I'm doing the panel today and my hair looks so good and I was so excited and all of this stuff. And I'm sure someone watching it was, oh, like she's doing so many cool things. I wish I was doing that. But then they didn't see my breakdown earlier in the day when I was crying, but I was so overwhelmed with everything, So it's like, you're not seeing the whole picture, and you've got to remind yourself of that. And even if you're using it as like part of your business too, it's like, you're never seeing the whole picture, but it is a vehicle for you to kind of share what you're doing with people, and you never know who it's going to impact.
Yes. Oh, lady, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, have you been practicing like being more vulnerable on social media and whatnot, or?
Not at this moment. I've been practicing being more vulnerable in real life. And I think once you're like, got a handle on it in real life, you can start sharing that a little bit on social media. Cause I mean, you're exposing yourself to more people on social media. So you're going to be exposing yourself to more opinions, and like, it's kind of like a catch 2020 when it comes to like sharing more on social media. So it's like, you really got to be prepared that like, not everyone's going to agree with you, or like, even like watch your story, like not everyone's going to see it, and not everyone's going to like be impacted by it, but just showing up and saying what you need to say and being happy with that is the first step. And like, you never know who's watching. You really do never know who's watching on social media and in real life too. So I've been really focused on trying to get a handle on things in my real life. And then if I feel comfortable and I'm ready, I'll share it on social media too.
Yeah, lady, that's such a great answer. Like, I wasn't really sure what you were getting answer and whatnot, but like, I think that's such awesome advice. Seriously. I mean, Brene Brown, you and I love Brene Brown. She says that she's like, vulnerability is not just like airing your dirty laundry to the world. Vulnerability is like sharing your story with someone who deserves to hear your story, And I think that that's something a lot of business owners struggle with. We do hear, I think vulnerability was a little bit more trendy like a year ago or whatnot. But everyone's like, be vulnerable, be vulnerable. Yeah, like hashtag authentic, hashtag vulnerable. But I still think it's great to be vulnerable as an entrepreneur, but I think it's okay. And this goes for authenticity as too, right? I think it's great to be vulnerable. I think it's important to be authentic. But when it comes to your business, especially when it comes to showing up online, we need to be purposeful, intentional, and I think maybe, thoughtful about the way that we show up, right? Because it's hard to take things back, when you put them out into the webosphere. And, it's okay to be showing up for your business and brand with like a strategy, and I think it's so, so important to practice being vulnerable in your real life first, and slowly baby steps start branching out a little bit online. I love what you said that, and it hit home so much for me, girl.
Yeah. And you can kind of spot when people are like kind of forcing vulnerability too. So it's like, you want to be strategic in how you're showing up vulnerably online, because some people are like, it's very forced. There's some people I spot, I'm like, Yeah. Okay. So
The eyebrow goes up.
yeah. 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 Yeah.
That emoji that's like, what?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys can't see our faces, but we're doing the eyebrow lifted
Yeah.
emoji right now.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And I think it's so true. You know what was like so freaking freeing for me? There's an event that happened in my life like 5 years ago now, and it had to do with my dad. And it was really, really difficult to talk about. Still have not really talked about it too much, like in specific detail, especially online for my brand and whatnot, because like I don't know how and I'm not comfortable with it yet. But I'm slowly, it's taken 5 years. It's taken almost 2 years of working with my mindset coach now to like be more comfortable sharing that part of my journey with like strangers, with in real life and whatnot, with friends, even talk about it more openly with my boyfriend and whatnot. And it was something that I really struggled with because it feels like a big part of my journey, but it's not really the core of who I am. But like showing up online authentically for my business, I was feeling like strangled almost, you know what I mean? And so one of like the most freeing things for me was realizing you can talk about things in abstract. You can talk about things that you've learned and like hard things that you've gone through by calling them hard things and moving on from it. Right. And like, that's kind of been one of those things for me that's helped me to like talk about lessons I've learned and journeys I've gone on, but not get into the nitty gritty details of like things that I'm not comfortable sharing online yet, you know?
Well, yeah. Yeah. And it's none of their business. It's like, it's our business. And if we want to share it, great. But if we don't have to. And you can share it in abstract too. Because if it's a big part of your journey, you don't know like who out there is listening that you're going to impact with that. But it's kind of like, we don't have to share everything. And some people do. And like people can amass huge followings by being vulnerable online. But at the same time, like, the higher pedestal that you're on, the harder you fall. So it's like, I mean, there's story after story of people that are like Insta famous that have like been vulnerable online and all of this stuff. And then they like don't show up sometime. And then people like have all these theories about like why they're not showing up and all of this stuff. So it's kind of like, again, it's like being strategic with your vulnerability because you want to keep some things for yourself. But you don't want to like withhold something that could help someone, but you choose how you show up. And maybe your close personal circle are the ones that you want to know everything that's going on. You don't owe anyone that follows you online anything. You just showing up and being yourself is enough. And like, you really don't owe anyone anything. If you're comfortable with sharing stuff online, share it. But if you're not, you don't have to. There's no rule book that says, oh, if this happens in your life, you need to share it with everyone online. And so they can like judge you and like all of this stuff, But yeah, just be strategic with how you're showing up and how you want to share information. And if you don't want to share it, don't.
Yeah, don't got to share it. And I love that's coming back to like, what did you call it? What's the thing that that's become a choice?
Yeah, choicefulness.
Okay, yes. You have agency over yourself. It's ultimately your life and you can show up in the way you want to. And I think that it's so, so freeing. One of those other things that has been just so freeing for me is just showing up as who I am and being like, I'm not comfortable sharing this story yet, or like if I try to share this story, I might end up crying and I really don't want to cry right now, even though I think it's okay to cry, but like, this is not the time or place. Or being like, showing up on Instagram Live, I'm a little bit nervous right now, guys. That was like my first 5 Instagram lives. Like, okay, I know I'm going to talk really fast and I know I'm going to be really nervous. That's like how I would start it because that's how I was feeling. And now I've luckily gotten better, a little more confident with that stuff.
Yeah. You've learned you started before you're ready. You're like open and honest with people, letting you know, like, I'm nervous. I'm going to be talking fast. This is what you're going to get. Yeah. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you become with it. And I think that's also something that you can take in sharing on social media is like, the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to be with it. But at the same time, I do want to caution people, like, don't process things online. Process them first and then share. Because I know there's a lot of people that get themselves into a lot of trouble just like pulling out their phone as soon as something happens and having like a comment on it, and then it blows up in their face. So it's like process first, then share if you're ready.
Oh, I think that's definitely a golden rule that we could slap on our walls for sure.
Yeah.
And if you have, I just want to say, friends, if you have overshared in the past, it's okay. You can forgive yourself and move on, make apologies if necessary. And we all make mistakes. It's fine.
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah. That too. But like, if you're listening to this before, like,
don't do it. Okay. Oh my goodness, lady. I love our conversation so much. I did want to chat with you about graphics a little bit. I guess like as a graphic designer, are there any like tips that you would love to share or think mistakes you see people making when it comes to social media graphics and marketing graphics and whatnot?
So, I mean, I think a huge tip is like when you're designing something, if it looks good to you, use it. Like, I mean, there's tons of templates out there. Like, I love Canva. I can use Illustrator and all of that stuff, but when I need things quickly and I want to have a template, like I love Canva. And I know that you do a lot of Canva templates. So, but like, if you think it looks good, use it and just kind of think through like, who's going to be seeing this? If they're like me, they'll like these colors and this font and these like graphics and stuff like that. But at the same time, if you're designing something that is for a certain audience, make sure that it's going to stand out to them. And also test your graphics, see what gets more engagement than others, and kind of take bits and pieces from those designs and incorporate them into future graphics. And I mean, definitely like refresh is needed sometimes. Like if you found something that works, keep doing it. And then also allow yourself to like try other things to see what is going to catch people's attention. Because I mean, there's so much out there and you just want something that is going to stop someone that it attracts and they're going to like be like, oh, okay, cool. Ashley did a lot of the graphics before she left the podcast. And so I've been doing them. And one thing that I've been like I'm probably the only one that notices it, but whatever like shape I use for the picture of my guest, I have 2 posts for each episode that I do, and I try to use the same shape for each guest. Mm-hmm. I'm probably the only one that notices that, but like it's something that I want to incorporate. It makes me happy. So I think it's cool. So if you think it's cool, do it.
Yes. Okay. That was wonderful. I love that advice so much. And that's something I totally like want to endorse and preach as well, is like have freaking fun with it. And like, you know, most of the time, my listeners, especially, I think most of the time, the people who we want to work with, the people who we want to attract are very similar to us. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so if you like it, chances are your ideal customers are going to like it too. So like, who the heck cares if it's like the designers online would love it or not? It only matters if like you and your ideal customers like it. And I love what you said about playing around with it. Like, it's fun. Like, let's make content creation and social media fun. Oh, yeah. I love it, lady. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Can you please tell everyone where they can stalk you online and listen to the podcast? Because I know they'll want to do that.
Yes. So my podcast is the Contagious Confidence Podcast, and it's at Contagious Confidence Podcast on Instagram. And my personal profile, if you're interested, is Katie, Katie, another E, Hawks, Hawkes. So it's Katiehawkes. Okay. Can't forget the extra E.
Oh, Rich, I love that. And we'll link those in the show notes as well, my friends.
And you can listen to the podcast on the Apple Podcast app and Spotify. And I might be adding some more streaming services.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us, lady. I've loved chatting with you.
Yeah. Thank you, Kinsey. It's always fun to talk to you.
How wonderful was Katie, you guys? I absolutely love this woman. Make sure you check out her podcast, the Contagious Confidence podcast. I am a guest on one of the episodes, and it was so fun to have that conversation with her as well. So definitely check it out. And if you did enjoy this episode, please share it to Instagram and make sure you tag both me and Katie. I'm at Feel Good Social. She is at Contagious Confidence Podcast. We would absolutely love to see and reshare and spread some love right back to you. All right. I hope you have a great rest of your week, my friend, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.